Come on up, it's all yours.
Cal wrote this song, by the way.
My life was a wreck, the way it used to be. That is, until my family said to me, come meet my Lord and my Savior, Savior. Come meet my Lord and my Savior, Savior. So I went with them to church and I began to learn His ways, and I came to see my life was in disarray. And slowly but surely the habits to fade as I'm bathed in them and praying, and as I'm serving and learning to be more like Christ. I'm praying for you guys to do what is right, like Christ. I will fight for your life through prayer to be more like Christ. As I'm standing on the rock, standing by my faith, standing with my Lord and Savior. Standing on the rock, standing by my faith, standing with my Lord and Savior, where I'll be forevermore.
Wow.
And without further ado, I invite up my mom, Maureen Camalucci, the best mother in the world.
All right.
Good morning, and thank you. This is a lot out of my comfort zone. But I serve in the library, and Lee had come up to me, and we were chatting, and we were talking about mentoring and men, and how you can, how men can influence by doing and by not doing. And we started to talk about how I was eternally grateful to the church and the church family, and especially you guys, with helping me raise Cal from beyond when he basically wanted to become a man outside the house. It was a point in time that I couldn't help him anymore as far as getting to that next level. And I want to tie this in also with my testimony that Paul had asked me to kind of speak of. And so I want to kind of go backwards a little bit into my life and how, my beginnings, and how as men can, influence or in a good way or in a very bad way. And my beginning between my two major male influence, of course, were my father and my stepfather. My father, unfortunately, just was involved in alcohol and just kind of having fun and doing his thing, And my stepfather was, although by day he was a father, he could be a very good father, but by night he sexually abused myself and my sisters from as soon as I can remember. He was in my life as a toddler, that he was in my mom's life. And so that's when my relationship with the Lord began, because in my darkest hours at that time, that's what I grabbed a hold of, and I never let go. And He gave me a very, a very big heart, because I was able to discern, to look at this man who was, who caused me so much pain, but I was also able to look at him as the influence, the good influence that he was, and that he could be a very good man. And I think that was the beginning of how I helped form me as a person, later on in life, where I was able to look at somebody not by the sin that they committed, or identify them, because I wouldn't want to be identified by the worst thing that I ever did in my life. I know that the people that do bad things also have another side. They have, a very, loving side. Their fathers, they're brothers. They're very good mothers and daughters. And so I, in my journey, was able to see this man. And people often would ask me, I felt like I should hate him because everybody thought, how could you, how could you? So I felt like something was wrong with me because I couldn't really hate this man in my heart. So I acted like, like I did, because my sisters did and everybody. But in my heart, I didn't do that. I didn't hate him. And I really, truly think it's because that I had accepted the Lord. And he was truly, that's what I clung to, closed my eyes, and I was going to make it through whatever was happening at the time. And so that was the difference between my sisters and I, where we are at this very, very place in our lives and as we've grown. And the Lord has thrown some challenges at me throughout, throughout my life, and from my influence there. And like I said, I think that my stepfather is worse off now because he's trapped within his own sin, because he's that guilt that you feel when you sin, I think is worse. They don't understand if he found the Lord, it would be released, but he's trapped. And he within that guilt, within that sin, and he's not going to move on. And he's getting closer to the end of his life. And I feel for him. Because I have moved on. I have been able to forgive him in my heart. I know it's not like I talk to him, I can't. It brings up a lot of bad things, but I've forgiven him in my heart. I'd be able to release it, the pain that he's caused in my life. And then, the same thing with my dad. My dad has, at this point at the time, has apologized for the many things, the times that he hasn't been there. And he's a good man, but he was not a good dad. And now, in the end, again, the same, the guilt, that feeling that you can't do enough now for the past. And as a person on the other side, that hurts when the person that you care about carries so much guilt that you've forgiven, you've moved on, and they carry that guilt. You feel for them, you just want them to stop. I don't want you to be sorry, I don't want the guilt, I want you to be the best person that you could be right here. I want to, that whole grace thing, that's what it's all about. And they have to, I think when you do bad things, and we all do, that you have to, if you have sought forgiveness, you need to let it go yourselves in order to be that much better to the people that you love, because that guilt, as Cal said, that does no good. When you say sorry and you repeat and you feel guilty, and it just brings on this terrible cycle. And so those are the influences that from my early life. And then, of course, I ended up jumping from the frying pan into the fire when I was young, and trying to seek I wanted a dream. I wanted a marriage. I wanted the whole thing that I had dreamed about as a child. And I unfortunately found a man that was as broken as I was. And so he wasn't ready to give me that. And he was the type of person, that whole guilt thing. And he would look at people, and unfortunately Cal had to experience that. He always looked at Cal for what he wasn't, and not what he was, and all the things that he could do, everything that he couldn't. And that was when our lives came, Cal, and he had so many medical problems and just kind of doing this, and he was bitter because he was looking for that dream that, that he the same thing that I was. And then we were kind of, okay, here we go, we got these, this is not the dream that we both had planned out and all that, but he hurt Cal by, made him afraid of men, basically, and that men were very harsh. And at that point in the game, that's where I was at too. I didn't have any trust. And it wasn't until really the 40 years of community that I get to share with Ron that I was able to see that. It was like a light, about forgiveness. And because I was carrying all this baggage of all the hurt that I had experienced through my life. And so through the 40 years of community, when they touched upon forgiveness, I felt it like a lightning bolt. It was like it was gone for everything, all this baggage that I myself had been carrying. I was able to let it go. And then bringing Cal in, and I was afraid of you guys. I really, truly was very afraid, because as you started influencing Cal, I was afraid, because I was afraid of the demons, the things that I knew that were behind the doors that I had experienced. And so I had to, again, let it go. I had to trust God that He was going to put Cal in a good place. And all these people that were coming into his life, of course, I had, prayed that it was he wasn't going to be hurt by, whether it be, sexually or manipulated or just, and he wasn't. You guys have been, amazing in his life, and not by, and I don't think you realize just how much, because we were at a very, that place where men just didn't, they didn't rise to the occasion, the ones that we had experienced, the close ones. So when you guys came in Cal's life, it was, it was amazing. Cal, we had experienced something together. Cal's an amazing person. He doesn't even share even just a little bit of the things, the accomplishments that he's had in his life. And it's, if you ever sat down, you'd be amazed at the things that he's done. But after basically my split in my marriage had to do really with, we lost my second son. Cal had a brother. And prior to that, Cal was a very self-centered little boy where everything was about him. He didn't have a lot of emotions and everything. And then when he lost his brother, though, it was like he woke up inside emotionally. And it was a horrible loss, and something that he carried with him pretty much, every single day. He blamed himself. He had no business doing so, but he had blamed himself, for not being able to save his brother. And so he carried that, and that was difficult, because when with church, he didn't think he was worthy. Trying to get him to church, he was just a really truly, like his song said, he was a broken boy. He had, not a lot of love from the men in his life, and then that loss just exacerbated everything. So when you guys came, when he started becoming involved in things, I was amazed. It was just everything happened on its own. Cal being Cal was able to reach out to people, and which blew my mind, because I can't. I can't do that what he does, where he can reach out for help. And that's a problem for me, or not being able to do that, where Cal is able to do that, and he's blessed that you guys reach back. That influence, that mentoring. And Lee was talking about how years ago that's what men did for one another. They were there, they mentored, and like I said, it's not just what you do, it's what you don't do when you mentor. And one of the biggest, where God had placed somebody in my life, and it was a man. It was the one man that I didn't have, it was like an angel is what he was, because I was about 15 years old, and I was pretty much at the wit's end when you're going through all that stuff, and how I carried myself. This man noticed, just by the way I carried myself, from how I wore my hair, that I looked down, that he knew something was going on inside of my life that he was very familiar with. And so he pulled me aside and he told me what was happening to me. And at 15, I was mortified. But then at that point, it was like a huge turning point. And he's the one that really helped me identify, too, that my stepfather had a sickness. And that that's where I shouldn't identify that sickness. I had to seek help. I had to get not just help for myself, but help for him, because he needed to be, I guess rehabilitated or whatnot, and get help. But had he not just taken that, he could have ignored me. He could have not said a word, but he didn't. And he had told me his past. He went to church every morning at 5 a.m., but he told me that wasn't always the case. He said that he had, demons in his life, that he was very familiar, that he was not a good person, that he wasn't proud of everything that he had done. But through the grace of God, he was able to throw that and put that behind him and move ahead And he took that little girl, you know, and he was able to point those things out to me. And as a victim of sexual abuse, you think you did something wrong, because you can't understand how somebody could love you so much during the day in a nice way, but then turn into something completely different at night. And then, you know, because as a person trying, you know, as a child or a teenager being influenced, you're seeing the person that he's showing everybody, the person that he can be, but then he has this other side, and it's like, it's unbelievable trying to put this conceptually together. And it doesn't make sense, because there is no sense to it. And at the times way back then, it was, I did seek help, but it was, you know, I guess it was a different time then, because people just didn't say, you know, didn't want to take it on, didn't want to say, oh, we got to stop this, and you know, and that was the state, that was the schools, that was pretty much everything. So it was kind of like a family problem that we had to deal with. So, but that one man pointing those things out, I think made a huge difference in my life, because for the first time I realized it wasn't me. I wasn't the cause. I didn't, you know, cause this to happen. It had nothing to do with me. I could put myself out of it. There was no guilt. Unfortunately, my sisters didn't, because this was an evil man at night. I mean, I can tell you the things that he did to manipulate into to getting things to do things was just amazing, you know. And that the fact that he, you know, looking in retrospect, that he could do some of these things and be able to be that person that he was during the day, just still to this day blows my mind. But it's not my problem anymore. You know, he knows who he is. Unfortunately, the laws are such that there's not a whole lot can be done for punishment for. I think this is something that he's going to have to. Like I said, he can't even look at me. He can't even face me. Because we have siblings. I have siblings that, you know, that complicate the whole situation, because we have a common mother and he's their dad, and even they know about it. But it's the elephant in the room type of thing. But he can't face me if I'm going to be in there, and I know it's guilt. It's not like I'm going to attack him or be angry with him, because I'm not that person. But I really truly think it's because I'm that person, because I still love him in a different way. I can identify that man. Jim Cahill used to say something when we were in the Bible class that rang really true to me, that Jesus hates the sin but loves the sinner. And that's, I guess, really rang true with me, because that's how I feel with the people that have hurt me. I'm blessed, because I don't have hate in my heart. And I think that's one of a gift that God gave me as a very small child, that I don't have that. And I tried to pretend, because I thought I was some kind of freak, because I didn't hate, you know, like I should have hated, but it was the opposite. Now I'm good. I'm really good with everything now. And, you know, just like I said, the things that we've had to deal with, the good, the bad, and the different. And we've had a lot of downs. But within that downs, that's where I found that we were the happiest. It was how we made it through all of those bumps. And even with my sisters and I, when we look back, it's how we stuck together that actually got us through everything that we had to endure. So my, I guess, point to you is, one, I want to thank you, because, I mean, every time I was waiting for something to have to come back to me to say that somebody hurt him, somebody did this, it's never happened. You know, he comes back and he just has, you know, story after story of how you guys are just there for him. And his dad is blown away by this, because his dad hasn't been able to do for him what you guys did for him. And it was all because you're accepting him for who he is, not for what he's not. You know, and that's huge. You guys just don't realize just how huge that is from the rides, because if you know Cal's heart, Cal's a little bummed out that he can't drive, that he can't do a lot of the stuff that everybody else can do, and he does get down on himself that he can't, you know, that he feels dependent upon people. And I'm eternally grateful that he doesn't feel like that hasn't impeded his ability to ask for help, because it would me. You know, if I felt like I was bothering somebody, I wouldn't ask him. And Cal does feel like he's a burden sometimes, but he needs you guys. He needs the rides, and he doesn't, and I'm there. This blows my mind, but he doesn't want me. He doesn't want, I'm the last resort, because you guys mean that much to him, that he reaches out to you guys for help, for guidance. I have my battles with Cal still to this day, and it's just typical boy to man things that I'm on him about. But I'm I guess the nag where you guys just accept him, in all his glory. And I really, where Lee was talking about mentors, you guys have been mentors more than you really know from my side, from my perspective. Cal might not come up and tell you, but the influence you have made in my life is amazing, just by what you've done for Cal. And I really, really appreciate it. And like I said, just doing that whole, it's not what it's not by just what you do, it's what you don't do. And not just with Cal, but if you do see somebody, if you see that, they take the time. And I know it's really hard, especially for men, to reach out to help, because there's that you're afraid that people are going to think that you have ulterior motives, and that's, I have seen that too, where I've talked to a guy where he says, no, I don't even want to go there. I don't even this is my husband, by the way, I don't even want to look in that direction, because I'm afraid that somebody's going to, point a finger at me and accuse me of doing something. And this is my second husband, and this is enough. I never, ever, ever thought that I could ever trust anybody or have that. But he actually, God had given me this man who, it is just, has been a blessing in my life, in my kids' lives. Cal's taught him a lot about patience and, and just, accepting people, and the fact that people do grow, people change. And we have to, if you do come across people like, my stepfather, I know, when I talk about him, he did so many good things in my life. And I truly wish that he finds the Lord before he dies, and to be able to get beyond the guilt and the sin that he's trapped in. Because he does have a really good side to him. And the same thing with Cal's dad. He has these amazing qualities, but he has these other things that, sin, and it all goes down, that's what it is, that he just can't seem to let go. And that it's like a perpetual cycle, because he's a good man, he does these bad things, he feels guilty, and it's just this vicious cycle, and it's like, you just need to let it go. And it's hard, when you're attached to things in your life that aren't so very nice. But every day, with Cal, every day's a new day. You can't base what your future on your past. And Cal gets a little down because he thinks, well, I try and I can't change that, and so he feels that it's not going to change in the future. But it's not like that. You can't. If you go in the gate and if somebody's telling you that you can't do it, you're not going to do it. If you tell yourself you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. But if you go in there and say that you're going to do it, and it's going to be different this time, and if it's not, then tomorrow it's going to be different. But you don't stop trying, and that's what I've been. My biggest lesson to Cal lately is just don't stop trying to better yourself and to get to that next level, because you didn't reach that level yesterday. And it all boils down to is this has been an opportunity for me to tell you guys just how much you've really been an asset in my life and Cal's life and Mackenzie's life, my daughter, because the same thing, the influence in what she sees. She's on the outside looking in and seeing all these guys that have been there for her brother, and that men are worthy. They are trustworthy. They can be trustworthy. And on the other side of the coin, you can't, if you see somebody that's doing something that they shouldn't be doing, try to be a mentor. Try to tell them, don't judge, don't, if somebody does come up to you and say that, or that they're doing things that they shouldn't do, reach out to them and let them know, because they're trapped in that vicious cycle, and let them know that tomorrow, even if you let it go, tomorrow's a better day, and you don't have to live in that prison of sin and guilt. And that's where I think we're being men, not just men mentors, but, it's so funny because I looked up the definition of a mentor, and it was like father-like, and I'm like, that wasn't so good for that wasn't a good definition for me, so I kind of pushed that aside, because because you're a father does not mean that you're going to be a good mentor. But if you're a good friend, you can help them be a better mentor. Just by the brotherhood and the camaraderie, and to not don't turn a blind eye. And you guys have, where Cal's been concerned, and loving him, when he needs that little, that where things aren't going so great, and pointing out to him, Cal, because that was me. I'm always the one that's always on him. Cal, you got to do this. Cal, you got to take care of yourself. Cal. So when he hears it from other guys, for some reason it means a whole lot more from you than it does from me. So keep on that up, to help push him to be that better person that he can be. That he definitely has the potential, and Cal, vice versa. That you just reach out and let these guys know, just how much they've impacted your life, and share a little bit of your life story, because they don't know all the things that you've done. And like I said, they'd be pretty amazed that when Cal sets his mind to do something, he can really do amazing things. And one little thing that he did when they were little, when Cal was little, they said, things that he couldn't do. And one of the things they said he couldn't do was ride a bike. And Cal wanted to ride a bike. And Cal, trying to get Cal to do things, you had to use reverse psychology all the time and tell him, you can't do that, you can't, you had to manipulate the situation in order for him to drive him to move forward. So he finally learned how to ride a bike, and then he wanted to run and ride in the Special Olympics. And I don't know if you know, but Cal's legally blind. He has one eye and no peripheral vision. So when Cal would present me with these challenges and goals, I'd be like, oh. But he did. We found him a sighted rider, and we got him the tools for the job, and the bike and all. And Cal he was in the Special Olympics pretty much his whole life, and he was a Special Olympics gold medalist for cycling. And he was clocked at 22 and 23 miles an hour on the bike with no vision. And how he did it was he had a sighted partner in front of him that had a bell. And Cal would focus, that was, he full speed ahead and focus on that man. And this trail, if you ever saw this bike run, you'd be like, I couldn't even be able to watch it most of the time because it would just drive me crazy inside. But he did it, and what they had to do was they had Cal at this level, and they had to actually create another level so that other people could compete, other athletes could compete. So Cal was in his own league, basically, and he was a gold medalist. And he carried the torch for the Special Olympics, and he was a big honcho in the Special Olympics for a good many years. And he, among so many challenges, because the other things that you don't know probably about Cal is that he has what's called portholothermia. And what that is that his hypothalamus does not regulate his body temperature very well. So if he's outside in the wintertime, he could go into hypothermia, his body temperature drops. And in the summertime, it's just the opposite. So when he's doing something as active as like riding a bike, his body temperature would go up. So we would have to have medical staff and an ambulance there on site, because what would happen, Cal would get very sick after the run. And his body temperature would be so high, it's like a thermometer that was ready to blow. And he would do it, and he would get sick, he would throw up, and we had to hurry up and get his body temperature back down to a safe level. But that's what he wanted to do, and we got the medical okay to do it. But that's what, that he, as hard as that was going to be and all the side effects, he chose to do it, and he just blew it out of the water. And that was Cal's pretty much his life. When he set his mind to do something, he does it. And before it was just basically, I guess how I always felt it was as a team as he and I. he would just present these challenges, and then, you know, we would find a way to kind of, to blow him out of the water. And you guys have basically taken over and taken to that next level, because I can't even get him to talk to me on the telephone anymore. But bottom line is, I really want to thank you guys, and just for you guys to just pat yourselves on the back, because you've been an amazing influence on a boy who was very, very broken when he walked through those doors. You know, and the song, that was perfect, Cal, because that song couldn't have rang more true. Trying to get Cal through here, these doors, was very, very difficult. He had no trust. He was really broken. He lost his best friend and just couldn't get past that. And, you know, and then, you know, here he is, you know, at a completely different, it's on his own. You know, his dad never, ever, ever thought that he could live on his own. He has his own apartment. And cleaning it is another thing. We're working on that. But, you know, this is where he's at. And I applaud all of you guys, and thank you for the influence that you had in all of our lives. Thank you.